Boy, it's pretty laid back. I thought I'd talk to y'all for a minute. When I'm getting ready, I'm gonna go do some hand cutting.
Oh, good launch. Good air. Oh, good air.
Alright, howdy peeps and peoples. I really think that you all, those of you that like the hand cutting videos, I really think you're gonna like this one. I share a lot of little tips and tricks and things that I do, my shortcomings, not just things I'm being arrogant about. I share my weaknesses too. And we cutting this valley out for Brutus, and we're using Brutus as a shovel, and we're hand cutting the Brutus in this one because of some sandy ground that's kind of putting us up a fight. And we do wedging in this one, we do some swinging Dutchmans, we do some triple hinge, we do a little bit of this, that, and the other. And the good thing about this video is, for once, I'm finally explaining a few things. I'm coming clean and explaining what's going through my head, what I'm thinking, and stuff like that as we do it. So let's jump in and see what y'all think.
Boy, it's pretty laid back. I thought I'd talk to y'all for a minute. When I'm getting ready, I'm gonna go do some hand cutting. I'm about a few weeks into this, getting back in the hand cutting groove. Starting to really physically feel a lot better. Starting to get my hinges back down there where they used to be. Starting to be able to make a quick stab at what's going on like I used to be able to do. And starting to go a bit better. So, but I thought maybe, since I'm in a talking mood, I might go through a few things that helps me hand cut. Because I had people ask me before, and I always felt like, you know, I don't want to be a teacher or nothing like that. I'm not good at teaching anything, but I don't know. I'll go through a few things.
One of the things that I like to do is I like to have a good plan before I go cutting. So what my plan is here, I'm going to do, they're scattered far enough that I'm going to fill up this valley with them. I'm going to use Brutus to come back up the valley, clean them up, set them up, and they're going to skid out that way. So I'm kind of backwards. Brutus needs to be at the other end, but as scattered as it is, I'm going to chance it. As far as stacking your trees to where they don't come back apart good. One things about hand cutting, let me put my gas. Let me check my gas here real quick. Oh, we're good. That's why I love throw jugs. So let's see. Got a big tree. Where's my big trees? That big tree marked. That's about where I'm gonna come down with Brutus. I'll go ahead and hand cut that one. And I got a few hand cutters up there. No, good launch. Good air. No, good air. Oh, I hit the tree. That'll work. Put your throw jugs in place, save you a few extra steps. Now there was three things, I'll forget the three things that I wanted everybody to think about when they're cutting. It's dangerous. Distracted, tired, or pissed off. That's bad medicine for hand cutting. I know everybody's gonna tell you, you know, what angle you follow at and how you look at your trees and stuff like that, but I'm gonna tell you right now. The logger Wade's main concern about cutting trees: distracted, pissed off, tired. Them three things will get you killed. And that has nothing to do with what angle you're cutting your tree at or how you follow your stuff. Look how good Brutus sits over there. I need a picture of that. That's a pretty picture. Man, I'm gonna tell you right now, have I bragged on Brutus lately? Because I'm so proud of that thing. Me and Brutus, we just have some pretty laid back days in here. Okay, another thing, when you're cutting, you see in maple trees, get them out of your way, because you can't properly judge a tree looking up through that. And anybody that's a landowner complains about that, knocking these maples away, tell them Logger Wade said kiss your ass. Get them out of the way. They'll get you killed too. All right, Puddin'. and pudding don't start, pudding's life's in jeopardy. Oh yeah, pudding.
Now I'll break in here and use this for an opportunity to talk about this triple hinge. Those of you that's not caught on to what I'm doing with the triple hinge, you put your vertical slots to make your hinges. You're making multiple hinges, called a triple hinge. You're making multiple hinges on the tension side of the tree. The idea is this tree's hollow and it's leaning for Brutus. It wants to fall on Brutus, so I'm kind of doing an insurance policy here. You got to bypass the plane of your stump. You got to bypass the plane of your stump above and the plane of your stump, your cut of your stump, above and below like 3-4 inches, and give that stump room to flex. Is the idea behind the triple hinge. Now I'll shut up so you can listen to the rest of the commentary here of actual cutting.
You're a finicky son of a buck, Tree. Don't you fall on Brutus, I'll whip your butt. Don't you think about it. Go over there. Over there. Come on. There it goes. Now I'm gonna try to miss that walnut. We'll see if I make it. Ooh, I'm barely gonna make it if I do. We made it. Well, I broke 1 liter out of him. Plan your work your plan. Now, that's nasty, but that's a... And I know it looks nasty. It's a hollow sycamore. I treat a hollow sycamore like a hollow sycamore when I cut it.
Now that sycamore top sitting up on this poplar top. I'm doing sloppy work because I didn't have weight. Here's the thing, those of you that might not understand what's going on here. I walked up on the hill without hammering wedges. I still haven't got my proper cutting gear. My hammer, my wedges, or my hatchet, my wedges, you know, the file, saw wrench, that sort of thing. I don't have that made up yet. You know, I'm getting back in the groove, but I ain't got my timber cutter belt. Kind of like a carpenter's belt, but for timber cutting. I don't have my timber cutter's belt made back up again. So I'm walking up here without a wedge. So I'm doing things, I'm pulling all my hillbilly tricks here to try to get trees to fall where I want them. And in doing so, you do get sloppy. Long story short, which, yeah, that could have cut it a little shorter. The sycamore tree sat on top of poplar tree. It done had cut there. Reason it's sitting there, because it didn't have wedges to put it exactly where I wanted it. So, in doing so, you end up swamping yourself in, they call it. We've got a bunch of mess around a tree I got to cut now, and now it's dangerous. And this is not a good practice. This is not a good idea. Now, what I'm at on this one is, this is sassafras. Now, I'm convinced it needs to fall up the hill. Now, part of that's from being swamped in and making bad judgment calls, but part of it's because that sycamore just cuts up again and it won't let it lean forward to fall uphill like it needs to. And now I'm deciding, do I want to let it set back? How much do I want to cut on it to narrow the hinge down? Because I don't know at this point I'm going to end up having to push it up the hill with Brutus. Problem with all this, the reason I'm hand cutting all this mess anyways, is because it is soft. And I can't just run Brutus anywhere.
There's a limb at sycamore up against that sassafras. It ain't got enough forward lean. I ain't gonna pull a sycamore out, it'll fall. Should have brought my wedges. If I'd have walked up there with my wedges and hammer, I'd have put that sycamore where it went, so it didn't cause that problem. You get that much of a mess, you just have to fix your mess before you move on, or else you'll end up with a dangerous situation.
Now I want to take this opportunity in the video to explain to y'all why is he hand cutting? Why am I doing this to start with? Okay, this ground, it's steep-ish, but it ain't really steep. But what it is sandy ground. And when you get sandy ground that's steeper, like it ain't dangerous, it ain't bad steep, but it's lays worse. Anybody that's ever tried to run on a beach knows what I'm talking about. If you tried to run on a sandy beach before, well, unless you're from the Pacific coast, if you've been on the Atlantic coast trying to run on a beach, you know what I'm talking about. Everywhere I run with Brutus, just the weight of Brutus makes a damn mess. It's not wet or nothing like that, you know, too bad. There is water saturating in the bottom, and those of you that knows how to make, you ever heard of quicksand? That's when you take water and sand and mix them together, and then you go down. But I mean, what I'm saying is this, in a nutshell, this ground is not good ground. And I don't want to be running Brutus around. I just want to run it backward. I want to get down the valley, beside the drainage, beside the femur ditch, or whatever you're supposed to call it, beside the femur ditch, and run up a daggone thing and do all my work with swinging. Well, to do that, I had to feed it with a chainsaw. I had to feed all my tops to it with a chainsaw. And then I can swing over, do some knickknacks, and organize some things, and basically do shoveling. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm down here doing shoveling. And but here, I had to set it go across a little femur ditch, reach up there, push that daggone sassafras up the hill. Well, if I knowed I was going to do all that, I'd have turned around and tried to dump it downhill. If I had wedges, I'd make all this stuff go way quicker with hammering wedges, you know, with my wedge pouch. Now that's coming. So those of you, you know, the naysayers, don't lose faith in logger weight just yet, because I am getting organized. It's just a process. It takes a while. You know, in this case, it's taken 8 to 10 vidges to finally get my organization back. Now, when I'm actually editing this, we are up into September, on the second part of September, when I'm editing this footage from
early August. I'm way up into September now, and I'm totally organized. And I'll share everything with everybody, show y'all what I did do to get organized and everything, with my saw, my supplies and stuff. I mean, it's working slicker than a Minter's Weed Whopper right now. And I'll share all that soon enough. But for now, I'm just trying to explain to you why I'm on this hillside, wallering around, doing stuff that look kind of simple and kind of irresponsible, if you see what I mean. But I'm throwing wood down to run on the wood to try to protect the ground as much as I can. But I shouldn't be wallering around here to start with. With proper tools, I could have all the wood set down there where I needed to start with and not be wallering around Brutus at all. Look on the ground. Look at the little damage on the bank over there. See where I just drove out the bank? Look what the tracks did to it. This is like a sandy beach that they play volleyball on. You know, it's daggone. There's no, you know, and you want to talk about going down quick, spin just a little bit. you go straight down. So now I'm trying to get my pull stick here, my cue stick, and trying to put my 8-ball up there in the corner pocket. Yeah, look at it. Nice. What I gotta do here is I'm trying to get this sycamore thrown down there because I don't want the skidders up in here either. I want to protect the trees that's down the bottom that's left, and I don't want the ground scarred up anymore. And there's a big skid road out there. If I could just shovel this sycamore out there to it, then we can get the skidders can pull it from out there, and they don't have to be back in here. And now I'm taking, basically, to be honest with you, I'm lobbing some tops down, and I was putting some stuff around to try to smooth out that ground a little bit, you know what I mean? So it didn't make a bunch of finish work for the dozer man there towards the extremity. Excuse me.
I skipped ahead now to the other side of the hill. And on this poplar tree, it's actually leaning back behind Brutus. And I need to drop it in front of Brutus. But it's almost a straight-ish standing tree. It's a tree that's not going to have hard side leans. So it's a perfect candidate, and it's tall. So it's a perfect candidate for a swinging Dutchman. Now, I don't talk about that a lot because that's kind of a dangerous maneuver that's only supposed to be used by an experienced timber cutter, and I'm talking a few years. I'm not talking a few minutes. So what this is you hear people talk about taking a tree that's leaning backwards and falling it forwards without a wedge. And I get people get on me every once in a while, why aren't you using wedges? Well, I'm using swing Dutchman when I can, you know, but this is a perfect example of it. Now look how now what you're doing is you're making a saw curve on the bottom side to redirect the tree, to swing the tree to a forward. You're letting the tree settle down into the saw curve, and as it settles down, the top of the tree, you know, a 1/4 inch on the bottom can be 2 feet up top. So the top of the tree is swinging. Now you see how I take the wood out of the center of the tree to where as I come around to finish up my release on the back, I've just got a thin strip of wood to cut around the outside of the tree. Now the reason for that is because you got to keep up with your tree. You don't want the tree to lock up and stop its forward momentum, or you just lost all you gained on the swinging Dutchman. So when I get to the right spot, now I'm buzzing on around. I got a small amount of wood to cut and I'm buzzing around. Now meanwhile, above my head, you can't see the top is swinging around and it actually changing its weight to forwards in front of Brutus. See that? Whop, landed up in front of Brutus.
Where the open area is that way, you let that tree rock over and it'll swing on around for you.
Now both these black oaks I'm in ready to cut, here's the thing. I know I've preached before to those of you that stays with the channel. I've preached before how big a part the sun plays into a tree's lean. Now on a slope like this, you get up close to the top of the slope that's a north slope that's got a flat up on top of it. The tree gets close enough to where if it stretches up there, the canopy can swing to the south. Even though it's on a hillside facing north, the tree can actually favor south or southwest. And that's what both these black oaks are doing. Now, one of them's not so bad. This one's not so bad. I go down to Brutus and open up my thing and get some wedges and stuff. But the next one, Big Daddy ends up having to push with the bulldozer. Because and the dozer's lighter, it can get up there and walk around the hillside and not make a mess. And I don't want to do it with Brutus. So there I'm taking a little bit of meat out of the front trying to get the swing forward, but her won't do it. So I'm going to have to go down and get wedges and come up and wedge it down.
Of course. Whatever, tree. So you're gonna do it like that. That's how you're gonna treat me. The way you gotta be, huh? Just me and you, tree. Now why'd you have to be like that? Bad tree. I don't think I'm gonna wedge that. That thing set back pretty hard. I'll see, but I doubt it. Oh no, that ain't happening today. Brutus, you're up to bat.
Now we'll go ahead and admit this. This running down the valley stuff like I do, it's not politically correct. But in these situations, especially in this sandy ground, look at that tracks down there. Look at, that's just a trip or two through with Brutus. Look how deep it sinks. So what I like to do with this is get down there in the bottom, down low.
And it's going straight down the hill.
Here he pushes.
Oh yeah. Ah. Get these top down sorted because I gotta lay the butts of them right there for Raji Dodge.
I like to get down low and then take these limbs and stuff as I'm topping trees around and stuff, throw it under my tracks and run on debris instead of running in the dirt and the soil. So if you're just down here shoveling, you can do a lot better job. You know, I drove through without having residue under me, and you've seen how bad the tracks sank in there. And that's not even that wet of ground. It's moist, but it's not wet ground. It's just that sandy and that soft. So you just kind of got to limit your areas where you're driving the big heavy track machine through and stuff like this. Now, if you can get up and down hill and back down a hillside with a few saplings underneath you, a few crappy saplings going crossways, now you can do pretty good work without digging in the soil. But you get down on a hillside, you can't be on much of a hillside at all. Your tracks will be digging in holes, you know. So that's stuff you gotta be mindful of when you're running around like this. And that's why I like to get down to the bottom where it's flat, throw some residue down to run on, and do it like that. Now here's a red oak tree I cut the next day, and it was an uphill cut. I'd done a Humboldt on it. I don't do many Humboldts, but on a red oak trees can accept a Humboldt pretty good. And this is that type of slope I was telling you about, where it's a north slope, but it's right at the top of a north slope. So this red oak tree is actually leaning southwest. It actually got up in the canopy. The canopy got up in the air enough to where it could lean southwest. So I'm actually going to drop it up over the knob. Now I'm down on the hillside, so I put the Humboldt in it. So the butt, if anybody watches Buck and Billy Ray, you can see he clearly is a confident Humboldt cutter. You can see how that tree is not coming behind the stump. You see that? Now on a conventional notch, what I usually use 90% of the time, and there's pea in that tree. But on a conventional cut, which I use 90% of the time, when that tree hits something that's still leaning uphill that bad, it can come sliding down off the stump and chase me down over the hill. Now with the Humboldt, 100% of the time that's not going to happen because that butt's going to stay on the other side of the stump from me. And that's what I love about a Humboldt. But in a hardwood cutting, there's a lot of times that a Humboldt will not work for the application. And I know Westerners will be like, man, you need to be using more Humboldts. And I'm telling you, a lot of times Humboldt don't work in the East because of our type of cuts. Our money's in the butt log. So we drop our butts on the ground. We got to drop our stumps down on the ground. Well, you get your stump dropped down on the ground, and you ain't got the room for a Humboldt notch because it's got to be in the stump. And the only way to do it is to raise the stump up off the ground high enough, like I did here, to accommodate it. Well, in doing so, you're eating up into the high value wood of the tree. So that's why you can't get an Easterner to use a Humboldt hardly. Now me, I've been on the East Coast, been on the West Coast. You know, I've hung out with the West Coasters a little bit. Just a week, or just for a few days, but it was enough. If you're an accomplished timber cutter, you can go out west for just a minute and see why they do what they do out there. Makes perfect sense to me. But so I don't believe in only doing things a certain way. There's always, especially in timber cutting, there's got to be multiple things you pull out of your tackle box to utilize each situation. And I'll shut up while I release this tree.
Typical for me. But no, I'm getting better. Getting in there, getting back used to it. Starting to feel good to me again. I need to do more of it. Still need to do more of it because I'm still making a few calls wrong that I shouldn't be making wrong. Like misjudging lean on these trees that I used to never misjudge lean on. You get that machine can push you quit paying attention to lean as much because that hydraulic machine can take it over. When you're hand cutting, you gotta be right.
Thanks guys for watching. One thing I wanted to say is everybody out there, do be safe. Please, we all gotta go home at the end of the night. There's other people relying on us, and let's not forget that. Thanks everybody, have a good one.
Hey guys and gals, don't forget to go to loggerway.com for all your loggerway gear. Thanks. How much you pay me to say that?
Man, how much you gonna give?